some of the inspiring forces behind my music, or some of the things that I'm interested in my music, is mostly interested in harmony and sound. If I was to simplify it to those two terms, it started when I started writing music when I was in high school, and I was exposed to all the great classical composers. Was a big fan of jazz. I really was drawn to that type of harmony because of all the alterations and different combinations that was happening, especially in some of the music of the late 60s, 70s, Miles Davis, all that Coleman, John Coltrane, that kind of stuff. But then, as I was writing music and getting more involved, I got interested into a composer named Morton Feldman, which I loved his approach as well. And so that sort of has kind of stayed with me even, throughout the years of composition. And I've also taken, aspects of that from other styles of music as well. That's sort of the central core. And I'm definitely interested in sort of kind of harmonies flowing into each other and just different ways to approach different instruments and combinations and that type of thing. So I feel like that is the biggest influence in my music. Though I have, as I've gotten older, more, have taken stuff from different styles and incorporated it into what I do as well. So I would say those are the biggest influences of my music. The piece I'm writing for Fonema is called When Shirley Speaks, and it was inspired by the jazz singer Shirley Horn, who was a jazz singer that was discovered by Miles Davis. Grew up in D.C., had a decent amount of career. Short, wasn't really big and famous as some of the other singers, but had a really modest career, was a pianist as well. And I was drawn to her by the way she delivered her vocals and the way that she performed her ballads. As we know, ballads are kind of like love songs or kind of slower tempo songs. And since I was already working in that type of atmosphere, the music world, I was drawn to it, and I loved the way that she delivered her vocals and whatnot. So I decided to, write this piece. It's inspired by her per se, of, some of the things she would do and, her style of playing piano, her style of delivering the vocals, that type of thing. So I took that all into account in writing this piece. When Shirley Speaks is a piece for, and it's a piece also in this situation dealing with the virtual aspect, because this will be performed virtually. So I was also writing it in that framework of like, okay, this is going to be a piece performed virtually. What can I do to make this happen virtually? So instead of having this huge ensemble type thing, which it could have very well be, with this type of style of music that I do, but I decided to pare it down. And so it's simply written for voice, piano, a electronic tape part, which has some of the instrument sounds that are in the live, and percussion. So we have the percussion is very simple as well. It's literally just two instruments, two percussion. It's just suspended cymbal and snare drum, and brushes and bow cymbal. Okay, so very simple, and some of those sounds are in the tape part as well. Also in the tape part, I have wine glasses of 4 different pitches in the tape part, which is interspersed throughout and whatnot. So that is the piece. It's a 10-minute piece, and it kind of flows from each section to the next. I'm really excited because this is the first piece that I've written that is essentially for virtual performance, so it's going to be interesting to see. So anyway, that is the piece, When Shirley Speaks, and I'm excited to hear it and perform it, and I'm grateful for the opportunity.
Darling, I need you. Lately I find you're out of my
I'm encouraged with the climate that we're in, with now the emphasis on diversity and access for certain groups of people, that we are now going to get more of a diverse, eclectic programming of different types of contemporary music in some of these musical ensembles and institutions. Not only do we need to hear music from underrepresented populations, but we also need to hear a diversity of different schools of thoughts and styles of music within that as well. Too often, we are just stuck with a certain type of style, whatever is hot at the moment. That's all we hear. And we seem to forget about the other composers that are doing other things, because the good news about composition and composers is that everyone hears things differently. One person can write something for wind ensemble, but another person could write something that's going to be a completely different approach. And we need to hear that different approach. As an audience member, I want to hear different types of music from different composers, because that only gives me ideas. Like, oh, I love that person used this material in this section here with this particular type of instrument. If I'm not exposed to it, I don't hear it, I'm not going to be able, I won't know. So I think it's our duty as musicians, composers, members of organizations, anyone in the music world who has a position or opportunity to guest input into programming, that we try to diversify our programming as much as possible, and to allow different types of composers access, so that the audience and us, that we can get a chance to hear what they have. Because there's tons of composers out here from several different countries, which is, I love what Fonema is doing, because they're highlighting composers from the Latin American community, which we wouldn't, here in the United States, we would never know, because the typical music institutions are not gaining they're just not programming them. So we need more organizations to go outside the box, to find these unique composers, bring them, have their music presented, so that the audience get an opportunity to get exposed to them, to find out more about their work. I think it's just good to it's just good for the art itself to not just constantly programming the same types of music and same composers and enough is enough. I think now we really need to dig deep, reach for those unknown composers, find them, program them, champion them. And again, everyone has their certain stylistic bents where they, kind of land. And I certainly have my opinions on certain types of music that I prefer over others. But that doesn't mean that I don't want some of that stuff presented, because, again, you can learn from tons of different types of music. And I think it's important that we are conscious enough to make sure that we are programming and emphasizing our eclectic mix of composers, not just from one particular style, but from a wide range of styles. So that's what I say. I'm encouraged that from here on forward, that we are going to be more conscious in those programming decisions.